It is Sunday school. It's not only Sunday school, but it's Father's Day. And I want to wish everyone who either is or had a father or have a father. I wish you all a happy Father's Day. I'm going to kind of make it, well, I always say this, I'm going to make it short today, but I probably am going to make it short today. Constance and I are getting ready for tomorrow's Monday night magic class, and we're having it here at the house like we always have done in the past in other cities and other houses, and it's we're kind of excited. We've got a lot of people RSVP'd for this one. As a matter of fact, we've got more than can probably comfortably fit in our living room, but that is likely to attendance is likely to diminish uh, as it becomes more routine that we just have Monday night magic class. But we'll see if it may not work out at all. But we're going to do four classes in this series on practical hands-on Enochian magic. So, but in honor of Father's Day, I'm going to say a few words about my father, C.E. DuQuette. Okay, he was born on November 11th, 1911. And there's a whole array of 11s that surround his nativity, including his address and the time of day he was born and things like that. It didn't particularly bring him luck, but maybe it did. Who knew? Who knows how unlucky he might have been? But he died at a very young age, relatively speaking. He was only 61, and he was a very, very hard worker and a conscientious and very honest and perhaps the most noble character that I've ever met. And he was a very good father as far as I can tell. What do I have to compare it to? But anyway, he was a spiritual inspiration to me, not because he was a spiritual man or what one would think of as being particularly spiritual. He was a 32nd degree Freemason. He joined the Masons the year I was born, 1948. And one of the prerequisites or qualifications for a Mason is that a Mason at least declares a belief in a supreme being. And that supreme being, ideally, theoretically, there's a lot of Masons that misunderstand this qualification. This idea of a supreme being, and in California, some form of afterlife. Okay, that's easy for me, being somewhat of a compared to others, a non-believer in stuff. I'm not a big believer, okay. But anyway, yeah, I've had no trouble with stating that I was a believed in a supreme being, because I do believe, indeed, I worship a supreme singularity of existence. Otherwise, I'd have to deny my own existence, wouldn't I? And I believe in an afterlife because I don't believe in death as we understand it. So, right there. But I'm not your average Protestant Christian Mason like many in the United States are. And my dad would have called himself an agnostic, at least. But he stopped short of that because he always, with a twinkle in his eye, said, I can't be an atheist because I'm a Mason. And that's sort of my answer too. Anyway, he was a dear soul, always wore his Masonic ring up until a period of extreme financial hardship. He kept his dues up for right up until the time he died or close to it. When I became a Mason, I took care of all of that. But in my book here, The Key to Solomon's Key, is this the lost symbol of Freemasonry? I talk about my father a little bit, and I'm going to share just a moment of that. I'm a Freemason in 1998. At the age of 50, I was raised in the same lodge that raised my father 50 years earlier. Masonry claims to make good men better, and although my father had many shortcomings, when all is said and done, he was the most noble and ethical man I have ever known. His morality, as much as I observed, was almost, let's see here, entirely, his morality was almost entirely self-imposed. He was not a religious man, confessing only that he believed in a supreme being, but he was good, for goodness sake. Not in obedience to divine commandments, not out of fear of some deity. He was extremely proud to be a Mason, and although he didn't remain an active member of his lodge, he always wore his blue lodge and Scottish Rite rings and kept his dues scrupulously up to date. When I was a child, he enjoyed teasing me about the secret nature of the craft and would rattle off his Scottish Rite degrees. Secret Master, Perfect Master, Elu of the 12, Prince of Jerusalem, Knight Rose-Croix, Knight of the Brazen Serpent. That's really a good one, too. Master of the Royal Secret. Master of the Royal Secret. That sounded interesting. I had to ask, what's the royal secret? I can't tell you. It's secret. Please. Nope. Did you tell Mom? No, I can never tell your mother. I like that idea. Okay. We both laughed, and I felt like I was already sharing a Masonic secret. Once I was about 5, he showed me his lambskin apron. He put it on, carefully centering the knot in front so it was concealed by the apron's triangular flap. He gently smoothed it down with both hands, stood at attention, and recited something from memory. A lambskin apron. It is the emblem of innocence and the badge of a Mason. More ancient and honorable, more ancient than the golden fleece or the Roman eagle, more honorable than the star and the garter, or any distinction that could be conferred upon me at that or any future period by king, prince, potentate, or any other person, and which it is hoped that I would wear with pleasure to myself and honor to the fraternity. Dad would do stuff like that just out of the blue sometimes, but when he got his apron out, he did that. Another thing he did out of the blue, because he was just truly a world-class gymnast in his youth, he took my brother and I out into the backyard. I think I had to be carried. I was like only 3 years old and still unable to walk. And he says, I'm going to do this right now because I don't know how much longer I'll be able to do this. And he stood in the backyard on the grass in his bare feet and leaped into the air and did a full backflip in the air and landed on his feet. I was impressed. But he also pulled this trick with his apron. I was impressed. Then he smiled and made the most curious announcement. The next time you see me wearing this apron, I'll be dead and lying in my casket at my funeral. These were strange words and a little hard for a 5-year-old to hear, but Dad was a pretty strange guy. He was right. The next time I saw him in his Masonic apron was at his funeral, less than 20 years later. He lived long enough to see my son born, but not long enough to see me become a Mason. We never became brothers. We never had the opportunity to discuss the royal secret. A snafu of some sort prevented his lodge brothers from showing up at the funeral to give him the fraternal send-off. We were assured a few days later by the master that the oversight caused heads to roll at the lodge. 26 years later, when I finally became a Mason, I was appointed chaplain of the same lodge. One of my first official acts was to arrange a proper Masonic graveside service. Okay, it goes on and talks about other things. The year I joined the Masons, I was indeed appointed because it was known by the master of the lodge that I was clergy, if you will. And in 1999, I was appointed, because in California, the chaplain is an appointed, not an elected office. I was appointed chaplain. And I was allowed to write my own prayers for different events. Of course, there's standardized monitorial prayers, but there are also prayers that the individual chaplain can either dig up on his own or write. And I love doing that. I was appointed chaplain in 1999. Then again and then in 2000, I was junior deacon. And then on the next year, I was a chaplain again. But then on the following year, I was junior deacon. And I became chaplain in 2003. So at the stated meeting every month, I was allowed to write a prayer and I always tried to make it something to do with the time of year and such. I sort of made sure that I sort of followed a pagan calendar of what my prayer was going to be for that particular part of the season. Pagan without rubbing anybody's nose in the fact that it's that. Here's my prayer for Father's Day. So I believe it was June of 2003. I prepared and prayed this prayer. Great Architect of the Universe, as Father's Day approaches, our thoughts naturally turn to memories of our own fathers, or the men who, in our childhood and youth, attempted to guide our footsteps and mold our characters. As a youngster, I found it impossible to understand my father's words when he told me he loved me even more than he loved himself. I didn't believe him when he said that no matter what he was doing or what he was thinking, that he was also thinking about me. Of course, I knew that the dear man loved me, but it was not until I stood and witnessed the birth of my own son that I would understand the profound depth of a father's love. Supreme Grand Master, we thank you for blessing us here on earth with a glimpse of your infinite and eternal love, a blessing you bestow by giving us and by making us fathers. Amen. And everybody answers, so mote it be. That's Sunday School for today. Amen. So mote it be. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. Happy Father's Day.